into a drafter's draft. Let's just get into it. Good morning, everybody. Another Sunday Sickos ready to go. Good morning, Tebow. Good morning, Versier. We are going to fire over on drafters this morning. We're going to jump right into it. I sort of have a bit of a heart out today. So if we can get this filled and running, that would be the best case scenario right now. So if you're in here and you want to jump into this drafters tournament, go ahead and register. We need 7 more people at the moment. So let's get that filled. Let's get rolling on that. And we could talk about some free agency stuff in the meantime, as a lot of stuff went down between free agency and trades this week. As you see from the title of this, the Seahawks signed who? Like, it's a big surprise. Like, you guys didn't have that information. It's called the hook, ladies and gentlemen. We try to hook you in by talking about who the Seahawks signed. And of course, they signed Sam Darnold. They also signed Cooper Kupp. What's going on, Tyler? What is up? What is up? They signed Cooper Kupp, and I have a lot of thoughts on that signing. It sort of caught all of us by surprise, and that initially does not feel great, like a great fit. But I really like the way I started the week off just ragging on the Seahawks because I thought they were going to do some really stupid stuff. I thought signing Darnold was probably going to be bad. But if you look at the way that they've structured their contracts for Darnold specifically, and it looks like this Kupp deal is relatively easy to get out of as well, they have a 1-year experiment that they can sort of get out of relatively easily next year or the year after if they really need to. So they're not really tied to this situation. And I think that people are blowing the Kupp thing out of proportion based on the offensive scheme that Kubiak's going to run. So I like it if Cooper, I think the biggest problem will be if Cooper just has nothing left. We're hoping so, Tebow. What's up, Olaf? Good morning, Jonathan. Good morning, Omega. So we just need 2 more in this. Let's get it filled. Let's get it rolling. Let's get some music going. But I think that the biggest problem isn't the fit with Seattle. I think the concern is more about if Kupp has anything left. If he has nothing left, then it didn't matter where he signed, right? Like, he just was dust. But they have their outside guy. Say what you want about MVS. He can stretch the field enough. We saw him do it with New Orleans, with Kubiak last year. I think he'll be fine for a year in that role. I think JSN is going to absolutely crush this year with Darnold. We really need that offensive line. No, I did a $10. I hope I did. Yeah, I did a $10. So anyways, I think that that's the key right now, is to absolutely shore up that offensive line with Seattle, because God, was it bad last year. And as we all know, Sam Darnold is one of the quarterbacks in the league. Not that every quarterback doesn't need protection, but Jesus, does Sam Darnold need protection. He needs all the hockey pads, all the football pads. He needs the 7 Mississippi count instead of the 5 Mississippi count. That is what we're looking for with Sam Darnold. So there's a lot of things that could go wrong with it, but I do think that there are upside outcomes to it. Not a team that I'm going to go crazy overweight on, but I'm not a team I'm going to fade either. I will be looking to draft some of the Seahawks, and that division's wide open right now too. I could see any of those teams. Like, if you told me any of those teams won the division next year, I'd be like, okay. I don't think we can say that about a bunch of the divisions in the league. And yes, we had Jordan Mason to the Vikings. So that seems like a good fit. Him and Aaron Jones over there. I feel like Jordan Mason might get steamed up too much, though. He's got a lot of value. So steamed up too much depends on, I guess, how high he gets. We need one more for this draft. Let's get in there. Let's get this $10 drafters rolling. Like Jordan Mason, he might get steamed too high. We'll see. I think he's just people really like him, and rightfully so after last year. And as we all know, Aaron Jones is 78 years old and can't stay on the field. Even though he played in every game last year, but it also felt like he left every game last year. So I get the steam, I get the hype, but not like a huge overweight guy for me if he gets too high up. But we'll walk through it. We haven't drafted since last Sunday either. Saw someone say Mason belongs near Charbonnet now. I don't know about that. I mean, close-ish is what I would say, but I still like Charbs a lot. Charbs is one of my favorite picks on the board again. All right, so we see Vapors in here. Let's hit that I am ready to draft button. If you are in here, we need to make sure that it gets to its obligatory 11 out of 12. That is standard for drafters drafts, where we get to the 11 out of 12, the 12th person doesn't hit it, and then we still wait the 2 minutes. So we got Vapor, we got Tebow in here, we got Ralph Wiggum in here, we have myself at the 9 spot, because of course, which is fine. Omega King's in here as well. Nice to see you all on this lovely, lovely Sunday morning. Tebow being blessed with the 102, Vapor with the 101. We're going to see what we're going to do it from the 109 spot. Where is my overlay? There it is. Should have signed in beforehand. That would have been the smart thing to do, but we're good. Good morning, best ball on call. Tyler says people memory wipe that Mason is basically a 0 in the passing game. Unlike premium handcuffs, he's all TD or rushing, and now with a team that can't seem to make it work in the red zone on the ground. Yeah, so that is a big part of it as well. I completely agree. Like, he's fine, right? Like, we don't want to... Like, he's fine in the... God, now I'm drawing a blank on the name. Who was the backup Rams running back last year that I absolutely... See, I already memory wiped their backup Rams running back because I didn't like him last year because he was getting overdrafted. But, like, in that range, that's like the Jordan Mason range for me. And I feel like he's going to get steamed up above that range this year. So we see Chase, Jefferson, Barkley, Bijan go. Gibbs. As well. Yeah, Blake Corum. That's the name I was looking for. More like fake Corum, am I right? Ugh. That was a high five for all of you because I absolutely nailed that joke. It was so good. Some are saying it's the best Blake Corum joke that's ever been told. And I won't deny it. I won't deny it. That's what I'm here for. I'm here to dunk on Blake Corum and draft from the 9 spot. And I'm all out of dunking on Blake Corum. Or am I? All right. We're going to see CD drafted here. This Jacksonville situation boggles my mind. We're going to just take neighbors. So I want to make sure I get some neighbors. But this whole situation with Jacksonville. So they did the first 2 things I thought they were going to do. I thought they were going to release both Ingram and Kirk. I thought that made sense in terms of going out, and I just really thought they were going to get Godwin. I thought they were making those two moves to get Godwin, and it just didn't happen. So I understand releasing Kirk, but then I don't understand releasing Ingram. I don't know, man. It feels really weird in Jacksonville. Yeah, we absolutely cannot see him matter on the field. Speaking of John Cena, apparently he has a hair. He has hair now. You turn bad and you grow hair, apparently, is how that works. So we're going to have to keep an eye on that, see if we can do that as well. Maybe we will turn evil ourselves. I like Drake London, but I still don't think I like him over AJ Brown. That seems weird. So I think we're just going to take AJ Brown. We'll start Neighbors and Brown for our team. Seems good to me. What's everyone else got going on in here today? We do have the Amon-Ra, Drake London, Brian Thomas with Jinty. That's fun. Derrick Henry with Bowers. Nico with Achan. Nico with Achan is fun. I like that start. I would like a Nico Achan start. I'm going to have so much Nico this year. He's just going to be... I'm going to be so overweight. He's the guy that I'm probably moving all around the first round, I assume. Because I feel like the first round is relatively settled a little bit. We might see some movement in this back end when the Giants actually sign a quarterback, which could move Neighbors up a spot or two or back a spot or two, possibly. But I think relatively speaking, this first round, the first 11 picks or so are pretty straightforward this year. And I think it's the best first round we've had in a really long time. Where it feels, there's like a small bump to the guys in front, but it feels relatively flat through the first round. RGT is saying that Nico Jumpuka is my favorite first round click. Yeah, he's my favorite first round click as well. I love myself some Jamar Chase and Justin Jefferson, but we know that they're going to be hard to be overweight on. I need to make some decisions about what I'm doing for fade because my general fade guidelines are sort of out the window, with the exception of Saquon, which, we just bite the bullet and we fade Saquon and we deal with it. But I really don't want to fade Bijan. I really don't want to fade Gibbs, but I might have to make the choice to fade Gibbs. I'm not making hard decisions until the main tournaments start, but this is the stuff I'm starting to think about. Yeah, Nico, Malik, and BTJ, same. It's going to be mine as well. I also don't think that there was any way that Brian Thomas realistically took a hit. I think that was being a little overblown. I do think one of the winners in free agency so far has been Chase Brown, a guy that I've been really scared of in drafting in the third round, but I think for now, he's probably a fine third round click in this tournament going forward. So if we're looking tournament specific, Chase Brown's fine for this one, and then we'll see what they do in the draft. But these tournaments will be locked by then. I don't think we have to worry about his value falling in this one. So I think I'm going to snag some Chase Brown going forward in the third round in this tournament, and then we'll reevaluate after the draft. But just bringing in P. Ryan, we're fine. So I think that is something I want to grab a little more of as we draft these particular tournaments. And I want to grab some more Amarion Hampton, going forward. So we're going to start Neighbors, AJ Brown, Chase Brown, Amari and Hampton for our team at the moment, which I like. We are on drafters, which is cumulative scoring. So those are things we're keeping in mind here as well as we get through this draft cycle. Gio says that he drafts so much from the back half of the board that it feels awkward drafting from the 102. Well, it always feels awkward drafting from the 101, the 102, even the 111 and the 112, because you sort of almost always feel those are the spots where you feel more obligated to take the same picks. And that's where you really have to alter your brain chemistry to be like, it's okay if I want to take player X at 101. Like, you know, like I'm not telling you not to take Jamar Chase because God knows I'll be taking him at the 101 a lot of times. But occasionally you can say, I want to take, for instance, Malik Neighbors or Brian Thomas or Nico Collins at the 101 to flip the board and make sure that I'm getting some different pairings with a guy. And I think you only do this with guys that you're looking to get overweight on, of course. So if you're like, my goal this year is to get 16% or more Brian Thomas, the way you need to do that is to mix him in throughout this draft, because that way, not only do you have 16% of Brian Thomas, you also get a little bit more leverage by having unique Brian Thomas teams versus the field. And I hope that makes sense. We'll be talking about that all year. That's one of my favorite first round strategies. As Omega says, he's done Neighbors all the way to 103, which totally fine. Something I'll be doing as well. All right. Damn, Tebow, you had to grab Hurts for me. Had to snag Jalen on me like that. Very, very rude is what I will say. Some are calling it insanely rude. But we will survive. We will persevere. We will overcome. We will draft the best team in this draft. And we will win the tournament. Just as simple as that. That's what we do. Yeah, but we saw what Neighbors could do last year with the worst quarterback situation. So we know that he is very capable of crushing. So Olave feels like a steal here, so we're going to do that. Seemed like a very easy click, in my opinion, to add as our third wide receiver, along with Chase Brown. Yes, he probably would have. If Travion Henderson fell, we were going to take him as well. I thought he was the only one that I could maybe push. Thought maybe we could push Judkins as well, but did not work out that way, which is fine. What do we want to do here? I'm going to draft my guy. We're going to have fun. We're going to take Jaden Reed as our 4th wide receiver. Super high upside guy. Take him over Pickens in this draft. This sets me up for some stuff that I'd prefer later, I guess. So I'm fine with it. We'll take Reed. Ugh, man, it's starting to get nice out up here in New England, which is great. Some programming notes. I will be here. Let me look at my calendar. I'll definitely be here the next 2 Sundays. The first Sunday in April, I will not be here for a show, is what I will say. I get to travel to Ohio. Nobody cheered. Nobody was excited. But it is shaping up to be a relatively decent trip. So excited to go do that. Not excited it's Ohio, but excited for that trip. But we still got a few weeks left of drafting before that on Sundays. So we will be continuing to draft. We will mostly be drafting on Drafters and DraftKings, especially for this pre-draft cycle. I don't want to get too into it right now, but pretty disappointed with Underdog overall the last 6 months. I'm pretty disappointed with the company as a whole, to be perfectly frank. So I personally am going to be sticking to Drafters and DraftKings for now, and we'll reevaluate when the other tournaments come out. But if you're looking for Underdog tournaments on Sunday morning, I don't think you'll see any in the next month and a half, to be perfectly fair and honest. So we will stick to Drafters, where if you haven't joined Drafters, you can use promo code SPIKE for a deposit bonus. And the cool thing about Drafters is they usually have incentives to draft on their site. So every X number of drafts, you usually get a ticket. So they are cumulative scoring, so it is a little bit different, but it's full point PPR. It's 20 rounds. So those are the things that are different about this particular site. We are on the clock again. And seventh round Mahomes that we can backdoor. Shaw, let's do it. Let's do 7th round Mahomes. That is something we will do. Where do we think Aaron Rodgers lands? Odds for Giants versus Steelers versus Vikings. Well, let's make our next pick and let's talk through that situation. So what I will say, the Snowman, I don't care like their affinity towards content creators. I'm not looking at it from that lens at all. That is not something that bothers me. They can do what they want in terms of business that way, like who they want to do whatever content with or not with. That's totally fine by me. That's their choice. I hold no ill will based on that ever. Their practices over the last 6 months with some of the decisions they made, and to be perfectly honest, their lack of accountability for anything that ever goes wrong, it's never Underdog's fault. And I think that is just like, take ownership. Just take ownership once. It's always the third party. We knew that the New York laws were bad. I feel bad for the New York people, but that's on you. That's on your legal team to have known what you were or were not doing. So We can have a deeper discussion on this maybe Wednesday in the lab, but I'm just overall disenfranchised with the company as a whole. So that's where I am right now with them. So I think that the New York thing really, I'm not in New York, and it really bothered me the way they handled that situation personally. For them to just the way they turned it around and tried to get others to be like, make sure you write your local representatives. It's like, I don't want to get too deep in this again right now. There is a time and place for this. It's not this moment, but Jesus, just own up to some shit. Just own up to it. You messed up. You really messed up. And to blame others is, to me, appalling. Anyways, let's get into the Aaron Rodgers thing. I see a lot of stuff online about this Aaron Rodgers thing. I've seen people say that there's a 0% chance that he goes to the Vikings, which is clearly wrong. The entire thing that's going on right now is once the Aaron Rodgers domino drops is when we're going to figure out everything with the rest of the Russell Wilsons and, et cetera, who's doing what at the quarterback position. So it's not a 0% chance. I don't think it's 100% chance or a 0% chance that he goes to the Vikings. And to think that there's not mutual interest between both parties is also an asinine view. Because if there wasn't mutual interest, he would have already made a decision between the Steelers or the Giants, since both are interested. I think that this is the Vikings trying to haggle him down to a cheaper price. Clearly. I think that's what's going on here. We are on the clock right now. I think let's go Sharps. Let's grab another running back here. Wide receiver is sort of a wasteland at this moment. But we'll grab Sharps. And I think that really sets us up well for our next pick. So make our next pick, and then I will just get fully into this hole. Also, worth click on the board, Isaiah Pacheco now, right? They absolutely do not want him. God damn it, I wanted Tyler Warren. That was kind of my hope, was to come back and get Tyler Warren. But I think what we're going to do is, I think the smart play here is to just grab Hollywood. Get the cheap Kansas City double stack here with Kelsey and Hollywood Brown. Hollywood is our fifth. We still have 3 running backs. I think we're in good shape here. So I think that there is mutual interest with Rodgers and the Vikings, and I think it's significant mutual interest, obviously. I get worried about the Vikings as a whole because if they do not get him, that shows me that their trust level from KOC on up in the organization probably is not great with JJ McCarthy. So I think the Vikings are telling us something about JJ McCarthy. Whether he's not ready, they don't think he's what they drafted overall. They seem very skittish on playing him. So that worries me about the Vikings as a whole if they don't get Rodgers. I think that this is contrary to what everyone else is saying, but if it's that significant that the Vikings are looking at bringing him in, I think that the best option for them this particular year is probably bringing in Aaron Rodgers based on this dance that we're doing right now. Just organizationally, they don't think that he's the guy otherwise. So I think that's what we're seeing. And I could be wrong. There could be no interest at all. But I think if there was no interest from the Vikings, this would already be settled. I think that is the monkey wrench in everything right now. So I'm a little worried about the Vikings overall, personally. So I think Rodgers goes to the Vikings. And I think you see Russ with the Giants very quickly after. And the Steelers, I don't know. I mean, I could see Russ going back to the Steelers too. That is another possibility. Tebow says Jameis to the Steelers. Book it. I don't want Jameis on the Steelers. I'd rather Jameis on the Giants. If he went anywhere, just throw it up to neighbors. He's not going to get that opportunity to do that stuff in Pittsburgh. I mean, if I'm calling it right now, it's Rodgers to Minnesota, it's Russ back to the Steelers, and it's the Giants getting Cam Ward somehow. But I'm not confident in that by any stretch of the imagination. Jordan Love is already gone. We don't love that. I guess we're just taking likely. I don't love it. Likely and Kelsey seems okay. Feels like I could still take a third tight end on this team. What do we got for running backs right now? Bunch of nonsense, right? Just an absolute bunch of nonsense at the running back position. I'm still pretty big on Trey Benson over most of these guys. So let's do that. I did want Lawrence, but he went. So we'll be okay with just taking Trey Benson there. So the team right now is Mahomes, Chase Brown, Amari Hampton, Zach Charbonnet, Trey Benson, Malik Neighbors, AJ Brown, Chris Olave, Jaden Reed, Hollywood Brown, Travis Kelce, Isaiah Likely. So we have the Kansas City double. Got some pretty high-end wide receivers. Got a decent running back room. I like it. That's the point I was making, Kyle. Like, what exactly are the reports between Rodgers and the Vikes? Wouldn't it be more indicative of JJM if they brought Rodgers in? Definitely more indicative of their thoughts on him if they bring him in. But just the fact that these negotiations are happening shows me that there is a level of distrust in him to run this offense. Now, there's conflicting reports that the Vikings actually have no interest at all in Rodgers, which I think is completely wrong. I think the Vikings are putting that out there. And this is me just, put my tinfoil hat on. But if there was no interest from the Vikings, this Rodgers situation would already be settled, is just the way I read it. So he would have already made his choice between the other two teams. He wants the Vikings. I think the Vikings want him, and I think they're trying to wear down the price, is what it is. So that's what I think it is. And as Tebow says, the Vikings are looking at it like they're built to win now, which I agree with. But if they're built to win now and they had trust in their rookie quarterback, that shouldn't matter overall, because that's how you build teams around rookie quarterbacks. You build them to win now because of the price that you're putting out in terms of contracts. Jesus, thank God we went with a running back, because what a run. We see Jordan Mason go in the first pick of round 13. I think that price is going to move up, but I think he's fine right there. I think that's a great pick where he's going there. But yeah, I think that's what we can take from it, is that McCarthy is shaky. Like they don't like, they might not have liked him before the injury. I think Darnold was going to win that job last year. I don't think he would have relinquished it based on how he played all season. So you would have had a redshirt year of McCarthy anyways, but you add in the injury, you add in their shakiness. It just, reading the signals, it doesn't feel good for McCarthy in my point of view. Operation on these, huh? Wow. All right. Well, I won't have much of him, but this does feel like the spot to take Anthony Richardson. So we shall. Mike says, why does the world still think Rodgers has the ability to win at a high level? Just because Brady played late doesn't mean he will. Plus, his injuries have been more than Brady ever had. Fair to have that thought process, but we've seen this with aging quarterbacks that were elite players for the majority of their career. Even their worst level is good enough to manage the team that they're on in order to get them to win if it's built around them. You saw this with Brady. You specifically saw this with Peyton Manning. So if you think that a quarterback that can still do some things but is smart enough to game manage properly is what I think they're looking at, personally. Let's grab Cam Ward as well. We'll double tap QB here. I think it's fine. RGT says, I always love hearing about the teams building to win now, and then there are the Raiders and Seahawks snagging Geno and Darnold. I agree with this, but I think the Raiders had to make that move. The Raiders had it. I don't think this is a super hot take. I don't think the Raiders are building to win a Super Bowl. I think the Raiders are building to put a winning product on the field for the next 2 to 3 years because they've been so abysmal. They've moved to Las Vegas. They signed a 72-year-old head coach. They're building to put a competitive product on the field, and I think they know that. I just can't imagine they don't know that. They re-signed Max Crosby, who is an absolute monster, but they tie that money up. They bring Geno over. They do have Bowers, which is a bright spot. They have fun pieces, and they can be a one playoff team. So I think that a one playoff game team. So I think that's what they're looking for. They're hoping to win a playoff game here in the next 2 to 3 years. And then maybe they focus on the actual rebuilding of the team. That's the way I read the Vegas situation. Let's win some games with Geno and Pete Carroll. Once Pete Carroll's gone, Geno will be gone, and we can then actually win a game, win some games, try to compete for a Super Bowl at that point in time. God, how do I grab Cam Ward and not Darnold? What a bad pick I made. Should have clicked on that quarterback tab. That was stupid. So bad pick by me there overall. But I think that's the Vegas situation. Seattle might have been a little blindsided by this Geno stuff, and I think they're still looking at it like they can win this division. Yeah, this was a pretty thirsty quarterback room. A lot of red on that board. And my rare 3 quarterback build, I usually don't grab 3 quarterbacks. I just don't feel the need for it personally. All right, so we got Mahomes, we got Richardson, we got Cam Ward. I was planning on siphoning this off with Jordan Love, but didn't quite get there. See, this is where Corum should be going, like around 15, Blake Corum. That seems good. We're going to reach. We're going to grab. Do we want Brian Allen or do we want Blake Corum? I'm going to grab Brian Allen. That's the way I want to go with this. That feels good. I don't think it's unacceptable by any means, Tebow, to have 3 quarterback teams. I think it's fine. I just, in general, depending on the 2 quarterbacks I get, I'm usually just okay with them. Like, I just, especially because I like to grab some of the earlier guys. So I don't think it's unacceptable by any means and cumulative. I think this is a great spot to take Mike Gesicki as our 3rd tight end. So we're going to do that. So we're done at QB. We're done at tight end. We have 5 RBs. We have 5 wide receivers. And that's where we stand at the moment. I will be recapping the team at the end and then getting out of here. Again, I do have a hard out, which is hopefully 10:50, but perhaps it'll be a little longer than that. So, God, there was so much to talk about today. The free agency. We talked about the Jaguars. We talked about the Aaron Rodgers situation. We talked about the Seahawks a bit. The 49ers, I think, are sneakily one of the more interesting teams this year with what they're doing. I wish I have to actually drive into Boston, which is not my favorite thing to do, but it's generally easier on a Sunday. And I did take the dog to the pond this morning, and he was not feeling it. He turned around, which is weird. So now the Jets are finally making good moves for the franchise. Maybe. I mean, it's the Jets. One thing I've learned in this long life on this earth so far is death, taxes, and the Browns and the Jets are going to be dog shit. So that is the 3 staples of life from what I've learned. Okay. Got our next 2 picks coming up here. Who's drafting right now? I think we have a pretty obvious pick here, if they're still there. Like, overly obvious pick to make here in the 17th round. So we'll do that. Do we think that I can upset Jets fans again by making some sort of not even crazy Garrett Wilson? Okay, we are on the clock, and AD Mitchell feels like just the absolute pick of picks here. We have Richardson. I think AD Mitchell's probably slightly undervalued here, so I'll absolutely grab him. Seems pretty easy. Next pick feels pretty easy as well. We'll do some scrolling to confirm. And De'Ami Brown's a fine pick, but I think we can grab Gabe Davis. So I think you can grab either of the Jacksonville guys there and hope you get the right one. I guess maybe I'm a little more De'Ami Brown over Gabe Davis, but I don't have a strong lean at the moment on either of those guys. So that's where we're at now. Probably need to grab some late round running backs. I do like our running back room overall. I am, like I said, I'm a little higher on Chase Brown now after the free agency. Yeah, I was talking about you. Hello, Gotham. Gotham has joined us. Yeah, we went down to the pond, and I usually get to a little clearing that I let him run, and before we got to the clearing, he just planted his feet, turned around, and was done with the walk. Which he does from time to time, which is fine. I know, I stopped petting you because I'm working. I do like how the drafts are settling in. Now that most of the free agent signings have happened, where do you think Keenan will end up with all the interest Cowboys had on Cup? Seems like a team who would reach out. I would not be shocked if, I hate to say this because it's not where I want him to go, but don't be shocked if the Packers grab one of these guys that's left. Whether it's Keenan, whether it's Diggs, you might see that come to fruition. So they were rumbling about a wide receiver. I wouldn't be shocked if you see that. We know that the wide receiver class isn't that good in the draft. So you have the Christian Watson injury stuff. I wouldn't be shocked if they... So I think Keenan might be the best of the ones for them. RGT says, I don't think you'd want your favorite team to sign Keenan Allen at this point. But yeah, I just think that it reads like the Packers might get him. They might want an underneath guy with his capabilities to sort of help keep everything open for the other guys and to make things a bit easier on Jordan Love. Would be my thought process there. But I don't think it's like 100% going to happen. That feels like the right spot. Wow, these running backs are terrible. Ty Johnson seems fine. Why is Ty Johnson this far down? Like, he's going to have some games. He's back in Buffalo. We know that for sure. We're just going to grab Ty Johnson. We know he has a role in that offense. So I think Ty Johnson's fine. Which franchise do we think has failed free agency so far? I mean, the easy answer is always the Saints. Because what are they as a team? I don't love the Patriots moves as a Patriots fan, like overall, but I think that's indicative of me not liking the head coach that they hired. I don't like that they went in that direction overall as a team, but I don't think they failed free agency. I think they built the team they want to build, which is my bigger problem with them. But I don't think it's considered a fail. We'll grab Jordan James because why won't we? So I would say that the failure of free agency is probably going to be the team that ends up without their quarterback. So if the Vikings do get Rodgers and then the Steelers, or it's probably the Giants, right? Maybe. Or Cincinnati, who just never does anything in free agency. funny because the Eagles didn't do much, but it still felt like they were fine. All right, so we drafted Mahomes, Anthony Richardson, Cam Ward, Chase Brown, Amarian Hampton, Zach Charbonnet, Trey Benson, Braylon Allen, Ty Johnson, Jordan James, Malik Neighbors, A.J. Brown, Chris Olave, Jaden Reed, Hollywood Brown, A.D. Mitchell, Gabe Davis, Travis Kelce, Isaiah Likely, and Mike Gesicki. So feels like a relatively good roster there. If you haven't played on Drafters, make sure you use code SPIKE to sign up. Make sure you're in the Discord. There should be a link in the description to jump on the Discord. This Wednesday, we will be back with a lab. We have a lot to talk about with free agency, with the underdog stuff, whatever you guys want to talk about, we talk about in the lab every Wednesday night at 6 p.m. Eastern. For myself, for Spike Week, that is going to do it. I'm glad you guys hung out with me today. It is always a pleasure. We will see you next week. Peace. Woo! Those were some spicy takes. Want to stay up to date with all of the other spicy takes we're going to have over here at Spike Week? Why don't you press that subscribe button below? You turn notifications on, we draft a team, boom, you know about it. We have another spicy take, boom, you know about it. You can be there. You can draft with us. You want to stay up to date? That's how you do it. All right, we'll catch you later next time here at Spike Week. And there I am still.